Hi everyone. In this video, I'm going to go over how to find the missing side of a right triangle using SOHCAHTOA. But before we look at that, I want to take a look at these examples here. In these examples, I'm trying to find the missing value x. And these will come in handy for the examples we're going to look at later on in this video. First, we have 7 is equal to x divided by 3. We're trying to figure out what number do I have to divide by 3 to get 7. Well, I know in this case, my number has to be 3 times greater than 7 because I'm trying to figure out what number do I have to divide by 3 to get 7. So, what I can do here is I can multiply by 3 to get x. 3 times 7 here is 21. So, x is going to be 21. Next, I have 3.5 is equal to x divided by 5. Again, to get x by itself, I know x has to be 5 times greater than 3.5 because I'm trying to figure out what number do I need to divide by 5 to get 3.5. So just like before, what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply by 5. And that will give me x. So let's do that. 5 times 3.5 gives you 17.5. So x is equal to 17.5. Next, we have 6 is equal to 18 divided by some number. Well, in this case, well, we know 18 divided by 3 is equal to 6, right? So x here has to be equal to 3. And in this last example, we have 6 is equal to 3 divided by some number we don't know. Just like before, what we're going to do, just like we did before here, what we can do is I can multiply by x. Notice here in these previous examples, this one, I multiplied by 3. In this one, I multiplied what was in the denominator here, 5. I can do the same thing here. I can multiply by x. I can multiply by x. And this will help me figure out what my answer is. Because on the left-hand side, I have 6 times x. And on the right-hand side, these x's cancel out. And I'm just left with 3. So I'm trying to figure out now, 6 times what number is equal to 3? And to figure out what x is, what this number is, all I need to do is I can just divide by 6. So x is just going to be 3 divided by 6. And if you check this using your calculator, that's going to give you 0.5. And just as a review, there are 3 ratios that are commonly used in trigonometry. One of them is sine. Sine is equal to the opposite side divided by the hypotenuse. Another one is cosine, which is equal to adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. And the last one here is tangent, which is equal to the opposite divided by the adjacent side. And we can use these, we can abbreviate this as SOHCAHTOA. Right? Remember, SOHCAHTOA is just an abbreviation we can use to help us remember these formulas. So stands for sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. Ka stands for cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent SOHCAHTOA stands for tangent is equal to opposite over adjacent. And we can use SOHCAHTOA to help us find the missing side in a right triangle. So in this case, I'm trying to find the missing side x. What I can do is label the sides of my triangle. And the reason I want to label the sides of my triangle is because it will help me figure out what formula I need to use next. Okay, so I'm going to start by labeling the sides of my triangle. So I have my angle here, 46 degrees. The side across, or opposite to this angle, is going to be the opposite side. And I'm going to label the opposite side with an O. Next, the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is the side across from my right angle. That's 5. The adjacent side is the side left over, x. I can use SOHCAHTOA, what we just talked about, to help me find the missing side. Because I know here, in this triangle, I know I'm trying to find the adjacent side, right? I'm trying to find the adjacent side. And I know the hypotenuse. I know the hypotenuse is 5 yards. So I have the adjacent. I'm trying to find the adjacent, and I have the hypotenuse. So I can see here I need to use cosine, to find the missing side here. And cosine, remember, is equal to adjacent divided by the hypotenuse. So cosine of my angle, 46 degrees, is going to be adjacent divided by hypotenuse. Well, now we can just plug everything in, right? Because my adjacent is just equal to x. My hypotenuse is equal to 5. And cosine 46 degrees, I can just leave that for now. And we just looked at how we can solve equations like this. All I need to do to solve this is I can just multiply by 5, right? Since I have a 5 in the denominator here. So I can just multiply by 5 here to figure out what x is. Okay, and if I multiply by 5, I'm going to do this just in my calculator. 5 times cosine of 46. And if you do 5 times cosine 46 in your calculator, you get 3.47, approximately. And the units here are in yards. So my missing side, x here, is equal to 3.47 yards. So all we need to do when we're using SOHCAHTOA to find the missing side of a right triangle is all we did is we labeled the sides, right? We labeled the sides of this triangle. And then we used that to figure out whether we needed to use sine, cosine, or tan. Let's do a couple more examples. Again, we saw from the previous example, the first thing we need to do is we need to label the sides of my triangle. So here I have my angle here. And just like before, I'm going to label the sides of my triangle. The side across, or opposite to my angle, That's my opposite side. I'm going to label that with an O. My hypotenuse, the side across from my right angle, that's H. I'm going to label with an H. And the other side, the side that's left over, that's my adjacent side. And now I can just use SOHCAHTOA to figure out if I want to use sine, cosine, or tan. Look, I'm trying to find O. I have A. So I'm going to use T, tan, to find my missing side. So let's do that. Let's use tan to find the missing side here. Tan, remember, tells you tan is equal to opposite divided by the adjacent side. So tan of my angle is opposite over adjacent. And all I'm going to do now is just plug everything in and solve for my missing side. Okay, so again, we'll remember my opposite side here is equal to x. That's what we're trying to find. Right, opposite side is x. And my adjacent side is 4.5 centimeters. All we need to do to find x is we're just going to multiply by what's in the denominator here, 4.5. So I'm just going to multiply both sides by 4.5 to find x. And all I have to do now, 4.5 times tan of 34 degrees. So I'm just going to plug that into my calculator. And if I do that, I get 3.04 approximately. And the units are in centimeters. And there's my answer. Last example here. Last example. Again, I'm going to start, just like I did before, by labeling the sides of my triangle. So if we look at this angle, side opposite or across from the angle is 3. The hypotenuse, the side across from my 90-degree angle here, is here. And the side left over, we can label with A. So let's take a look again. We're going to use SOHCAHTOA to help us figure out whether we want to use sine, cosine, or tan. Well, let's take a look. I have my opposite side, and I'm trying to find my adjacent side. So just like before, I'm just going to use T, tan. Let's go ahead and do that. If you'll remember, tan is equal to opposite over adjacent. My opposite side here is 3 meters. So I'm going to replace O with 3. And my adjacent side here is x. Right? So I'm going to replace the A with an x. And now x is on the bottom. Right? Remember what we did before. When x was on the bottom, we multiplied both sides by x to solve for x. We're going to do the exact same thing here. I'm going to multiply both of my sides by x. Okay, so on the left-hand side, I have x times tan of 77. On the right-hand side, these x's cancel out to give me 3. Okay, I'm not done yet though. I have this tan of 77 degrees here on the left. To get x by itself, I need to divide. I need to divide by tan of 77 degrees. And then x is just going to be 3 divided by tan of 77 degrees. And if you plug this into your calculator, 3 divided by tan of 77 degrees, you'll find x is equal to 0.693 meters approximately. So all you need to do, right, in these cases is first you're going to want to start by labeling the sides of your triangle. Then you can use SOHCAHTOA to figure out if you want to use sine, cosine, or tan to solve for your missing side.